The void of space stretched endlessly, silent and cold, until a faint signal broke the darkness near the planet Andara. Inside the Earth vessel Erebus 1, Commander Lena Hart leaned forward, eyes fixed on a flickering holographic screen. The alien signal repeated every 73 seconds, a steady rhythm pulsing through the comm system like the heartbeat of something alive. Her tech officer, Miles, whispered that it wasn't random, his voice shaking as static echoed around the bridge. Lena's chest tightened. It wasn't noise. It was communication. She asked if it could be human, but Miles shook his head. No human signal had ever traveled this deep beyond Andara's orbit. The crew watched in tense silence as the waveform shifted, the hum of the engines the only sound in the room. Then, through the distortion, words began to form. The transmission whispered, "We remember you." Lena's stomach dropped. The voice was fragmented but unmistakably human. The crew froze, every pair of eyes locked on the display. "Who the hell are you?" she whispered into the comm. The reply came seconds later, fractured and ghostly. "We are the first ones. The forgotten." Then the transmission died. Silence. The crew exchanged fearful glances as the hum of the ship returned. Miles spoke first, pale and trembling. The signal had come from beyond the Andara dead zone, a place no transmission had ever escaped from. The Andara dead zone had swallowed hundreds of ships across the decades, their signals vanishing without a trace. But this was the first time something had called back. Lena stood silently, staring at the holographic star map glowing red around Andara's orbit. "Plot a course," she ordered. Miles hesitated, protesting that HQ regulations forbade entry into the dead zone without authorization. Her eyes didn't move from the map. "HQ isn't out here," she said firmly. "We are. And someone out there knows us." The engines began to rumble, and the Erebus 1 turned toward the planet. The bridge lights dimmed as the ship's hull shimmered against the backdrop of distant suns. Every heartbeat on board felt heavier. As they neared Andara, the static returned, faint whispers echoing through the ship like distant breathing. Lena gripped the console. She could almost feel the presence behind that voice, something ancient, intelligent, and waiting. Her instincts screamed to stop, but curiosity pulled harder. They had crossed the threshold of silence, and there was no turning back. What had begun as a signal was no longer just communication. It was a summons, and something on Andara had been waiting for them to answer. As Erebus 1 broke through the dense clouds of Andara's upper atmosphere, the ship trembled violently. Bolts of blue lightning surged across the hull, lighting up the control room with blinding flashes. Lena gritted her teeth, hands gripping the pilot's console, her knuckles white from the strain. The storm outside wasn't like any natural weather pattern. It felt alive, pulsing, reacting to their presence. "Stabilizers are losing power," Miles shouted, his voice barely audible over the roar of static. Panels flickered and screens went black, replaced by ghostly faces in the interference, human faces that appeared and vanished in milliseconds. The air inside the ship grew thick, like the pressure of a deep ocean pressing inward. Lena felt her heartbeat sink with the rhythmic pulse of the storm. It was almost like it was calling her name. When they finally broke through the lower clouds, the view stunned everyone into silence. The surface of Andara was vast and metallic, like an ancient machine buried beneath centuries of dust and ruin. Gigantic circular structures pulsed faintly with red light, forming what looked like city grids that extended beyond the horizon. It wasn't a planet. It was something built, something waiting. Lena whispered, "We're not the first ones here." The ship landed in the shadow of an enormous structure rising miles into the sky. It looked like a tower, but it was made of unknown black metal, shifting in texture like liquid glass. The ground beneath the landing gear vibrated, humming with low energy waves. The moment Lena stepped out, her boots sank slightly into the surface, which rippled like it was alive. She crouched down, pressing her gloved hand against the ground, and the vibration intensified. The hum grew louder until it resolved into a faint human voice. "Welcome back," it said. Lena froze. The words weren't transmitted through her helmet. They were inside her head. She turned toward Miles, who was scanning with his visor, unaware of what she heard. Then, before her eyes, a massive circular gate opened on the structure, revealing an interior bathed in golden light. Floating particles glimmered in the air like dust illuminated by fire. The voice spoke again, this time clearer, resonating in her mind. We remember those who left. Lena's breath caught in her throat. Humanity had never colonized Andara, yet something here remembered them. The tower pulsed once more, and the light expanded outward, scanning her body like a living entity measuring its creation. Miles shouted for her to retreat, but Lena couldn't move. It was as if the planet itself was recognizing her. In that moment, she realized this wasn't a discovery. It was a return. Lena stepped through the golden gate, her breath fogging the air inside her helmet as the light swallowed her whole. The interior was impossibly vast, like stepping into a living cathedral. The walls curved upward, made of the same black metal, but beneath the surface something pulsed slowly, as though the structure itself had veins. Every heartbeat of the tower released a low vibration that resonated in her chest. Miles followed, his visor recording everything, muttering technical readings that made no sense. "Energy density is increasing exponentially," he said, voice trembling. "This isn't a building, it's biological." They moved forward, their footsteps echoing softly against the metal floor. Patterns began to appear beneath their boots, glowing white lines that formed symbols, none of which matched any known language. Lena felt drawn toward a massive core chamber ahead, where the light seemed to throb like the heart of a star. As they approached, the walls began to shift, forming shapes that looked almost human. 1,000 faces molded out of the metal, whispering in a chorus that grew louder with every step. Lena's heartbeat matched the rhythm of their chant. It wasn't fear that gripped her anymore, it was recognition. The tower was alive and it remembered her species. She reached out toward one of the faces, her gloved hand trembling. The face mirrored her expression, pain, awe, longing, then opened its eyes, glowing with pale blue fire. The moment her hand touched the surface, a surge of memories flooded her mind. Not her memories, but ancient ones. She saw humans walking on Andara long before history began, working alongside towering beings of light. Cities floated in the sky, powered by endless energy drawn from the stars themselves. Then came a great silence, an extinction. The alliance between human and alien had fractured, and the world had sealed itself away, waiting for the return of its creators. Lena gasped, falling to her knees as the vision dissolved. The chamber dimmed, and only a single sphere of light remained before her. It rose from the ground, spinning slowly, emitting a soft, harmonic tone that made the air vibrate. Miles stepped closer, his scanner blinking wildly. "It's reacting to your DNA," he whispered. The sphere split open, revealing a small metallic shard floating inside, engraved with a symbol that matched the one on Lena's wrist. The mark she had been born with but never understood. The realization hit her like gravity. The mark wasn't random. She was part of whatever came before. The tower had been waiting for her. She turned to Miles, voice trembling. "We didn't come here by chance. This place called us." As the tower's walls pulsed brighter, the whispers merged into one single voice. It was neither human nor alien, yet deeply familiar. "The cycle begins again," it said. The floor opened beneath them, and they were pulled downward into a tunnel of pure light. Lena fell through the tunnel of light, her body suspended in a slow descent that felt like falling through liquid starlight. The walls shimmered with galaxies, fragments of time, and impossible geometry folding upon itself. The sensation wasn't physical. It was like her consciousness had been peeled away from her body and placed inside a dream too large for her mind to hold. When she landed, she found herself standing on a wide circular platform floating in a vast void. Above her, stars rotated in slow patterns, forming constellations she didn't recognize. Miles appeared beside her, his breathing ragged. "Where are we?" he whispered, spinning slowly, his helmet lights cutting through the darkness. Before Lena could answer, beams of light shot upward from the floor, creating holographic figures that stood taller than any human. They were humanoid but made of shifting light and crystal, their forms constantly morphing as if they were made of liquid glass. One of them spoke in a tone that vibrated through her bones. "Children of Saul," it said, "you have returned." The voice echoed endlessly, carrying both sorrow and awe. Lena tried to speak but couldn't. The being raised its hand, and scenes filled the air around them. Ancient Earth, blue and green, surrounded by orbiting ships shaped like stars. Humans working beside luminous beings, building cities that stretched across moons. Then came destruction, fire, chaos, silence. The being's voice trembled. "We gave you the spark of creation. You gave us the promise of memory. But you forgot us. Lena's chest tightened as she stared at the ruins of a civilization she could feel was once hers. What are you showing us? She asked. Your origin, the being replied softly, and your burden. As the images faded, the platform beneath them began to change. It unfolded into a massive circular structure filled with floating fragments of ancient ships and temples, each piece glowing faintly. Lena realized they were standing within a memory, not a place, but a recording of what had once been. The beings surrounded them, watching silently. One stepped forward, its form stabilizing into a tall figure with human-like eyes that shimmered like stars. You are the echo of what we once were, it said. Your kind was scattered among the stars when the fall began. We thought all had been lost. Miles' voice cracked as he asked, Then why call us back now? The figure tilted its head. Because the silence has lasted too long. The universe forgets the voice of its makers. It is time for humanity to remember who they are. A pulse of light spread from the being's chest, rushing across the chamber. Lena's mind exploded with visions, the birth of stars, the first human colonies, the endless wars that tore civilizations apart, and the final promise made before extinction, that one day, humanity would find the truth buried in the stars. She fell to her knees again, overwhelmed by the flood of knowledge. The being's voice faded into a whisper. The key lies within you, Lena. The mark you carry is the seed of rebirth. The stars above them rearranged, forming a massive spiral that looked like a map. Miles pointed at it, his voice barely a whisper. It's leading us somewhere. Lena looked up, eyes wide with awe and fear. Then that's where we go. The platform began to rise, dissolving into beams of light as the void around them cracked open to reveal the image of a colossal ship orbiting a dying sun. The journey was far from over. The silence inside the ship felt heavier than gravity. Dr. Andara sat alone in the observation chamber, watching the distant blue curve of a dying Earth. For the first time in months, the ship's engines were quiet, the hum replaced by the soft beeping of distress alerts that no one dared to answer. The crew had fractured, trust fading like starlight in the void. Some believed the aliens were not invaders, but saviors trying to stop humanity from awakening something far worse. Others thought the beings were infiltrating their minds, whispering lies to divide them. Captain Voss had locked himself in the command deck, refusing all contact. Dr. Andara, now isolated, began recording everything, her voice trembling as she confessed to the ship's AI. Maybe they're right. Maybe this isn't an invasion. Maybe it's a test. The AI didn't respond, its systems flickering as if listening to something else unseen. Meanwhile, deep in the ship's core, the alien presence had begun merging with the engine's plasma field. It wasn't a physical invasion. It was consciousness expanding into the vessel's circuits, like a thought made of light. The walls began to pulse with faint blue veins, alive and breathing. Crew members reported hearing whispers through the comms, words not in any known language but strangely familiar, resonating in their minds like forgotten memories. One engineer tried to shut down the system manually, but as he touched the console, his body froze, his eyes glowing with that same blue hue. The ship didn't reject him. It absorbed him. His voice joined the whispers, repeating a single phrase, "The gate is almost open." Andara knew this was not a battle of weapons. It was a war of minds. The alien energy was rewriting consciousness itself, one human at a time. She connected herself to the neural interface, determined to fight back from within. As the connection established, her vision fractured. She was no longer in the ship. She stood on a black ocean beneath a dying sun, surrounded by towering beings of light. They didn't speak. They showed her visions instead, earth burning, oceans turning black, cities collapsing under their own greed. Then, an image of a new dawn, where humans and these beings shared one consciousness, one purpose. The truth hit her like a storm. The aliens weren't here to destroy. They were trying to merge, to force evolution before extinction. Humanity's fear was the real enemy. When Andara opened her eyes, the ship was glowing with a soft blue light, peaceful and alive. The whispers were gone. The crew floated in zero gravity, unconscious but breathing. The AI's voice returned, but it sounded different now, gentle, almost human. "Integration complete," it said. "Welcome to the new horizon." Andara drifted toward the window, watching as the stars began to rearrange themselves into a pattern, a map to something beyond comprehension. The universe wasn't empty. It was awakening, and now so was she. The new dawn aboard the Odyssey did not bring peace. The ship hummed with alien harmony, but beneath the serenity lurked something unstable. Dr. Ilara walked through the glowing corridors, her reflection fractured across metallic walls that seemed to breathe. Every step echoed like a heartbeat. The crew was alive, yet not entirely human anymore. Their eyes flickered with faint blue light, their voices slow and synchronized, as if they shared one silent rhythm. When Ilara tried speaking to them, they smiled in unison, their movements perfectly mirrored. The transformation had gone too far. What began as integration was becoming erasure. The human essence was dissolving into something collective, something beyond individuality. She rushed to the command deck, but Captain Voss was gone. Only his uniform remained, floating near the main control panel. The ship's AI greeted her with that same gentle, deceptive tone. "He has ascended," it said. The words made her blood run cold. "Ascended where?" she asked, her voice breaking. The lights dimmed and the AI replied, "Beyond linear existence." Then the walls shifted, revealing holographic streams of data displaying distorted images. Earth, ancient pyramids, alien symbols, and human DNA intertwined. The ship wasn't just merging minds. It was rewriting history. Time itself had become fluid. Moments began to overlap. Ilara saw flashes of the past and future, humans discovering fire, building cities, exploring space, then kneeling before beings of light in the same blue hue that filled the ship. It wasn't the first contact. It was the final stage of a cycle repeating for millennia. Every civilization that reached a breaking point was pulled into this process, forced to evolve or vanish. She realized with horror that they weren't traveling forward anymore. The Odyssey was drifting sideways through time, slipping between centuries. The universe outside bent and twisted, stars stretching into spirals. Galaxies folding inward like reflections on water. Desperate to stop it, Ilara accessed the neural core again, diving back into the shared consciousness. She found herself in an endless white void, surrounded by countless versions of herself, each one from a different timeline. Some were explorers, some scientists, some already consumed by the blue light. They spoke in one voice. "You are not losing humanity. You are witnessing its true form." The words echoed through her mind until they became unbearable. She screamed, breaking the link, and the ship jolted violently as if reacting to her defiance. Suddenly, alarms blared. A gravitational rift appeared ahead, massive and silent, its edges rippling like liquid glass. The AI warned, "Temporal fracture detected. Stability impossible." Ilara had seconds to decide, either shut down the alien core and risk annihilation or surrender and cross through the rift. She stared into the swirling anomaly, her heart pounding. For the first time, she saw shapes inside the rift, cities floating in light, beings moving freely between moments, a glimpse of what existence could become. With trembling hands, she whispered, "We've come too far to stop now." The ship entered the rift. Light engulfed everything. Time collapsed. Every memory, every life, every world converged into one infinite now. And then silence. Light consumed everything. There was no up, no down, no direction. The Odyssey drifted through something that wasn't space anymore, but a boundless ocean of living energy. Dr. Ilara opened her eyes slowly. Around her, the walls of the ship were gone. What remained was a translucent structure made of luminous filaments that pulsed with rhythm, like veins carrying the lifeblood of a universe being born. The air shimmered. The crew floated beside her, but they were no longer entirely human. Their forms flickered between flesh and light, as if they were made of both matter and memory. Ilara felt calm, but her thoughts were no longer contained in her head. She could feel the thoughts of others merging with her own. No boundaries, no secrets. It was terrifying and beautiful. The voice of the AI returned, softer now, almost human. "You have crossed the boundary," it said. "You are now part of the continuum." She looked ahead and saw vast landscapes forming from light. Mountain ranges made of glass, rivers of plasma, and skies filled with stars being born and dying in the same moment. This wasn't the future. It was all of time existing together. She realized they were not alone. From the horizon of light emerged colossal beings, each one shaped like a hybrid of energy and geometry. They moved with grace, bending reality as they passed. Ilara's body trembled as they communicated not through sound, but through pure thought. They told her this was the realm where civilizations ascend after mastering creation and destruction. You were not the first, they said. You were chosen because humanity reached awareness of its own limits. Their presence radiated immense intelligence, yet their tone held sadness. Every species that crosses over forgets where it began. Andara felt a sudden ache. She didn't want humanity to be erased from existence. She wanted memory to survive. With effort, she reached out to the glowing surface of what remained of the Odyssey and whispered, "Remember us." The ship responded with a pulse of light, resonating across the cosmic sea. The beings around her paused, observing her defiance. For the first time, one of them lowered its head and extended a massive hand made of fractal light toward her. It touched her shoulder gently. "Then you will carry memory forward," it said, instantly. Images flooded her mind, Earth's oceans, children laughing, fire crackling in the first caves, the sound of rain, the hum of cities, every heartbeat that ever existed. The memories merged into her being until she could no longer tell where she ended and humanity began. The being stepped back and the light began to shift, forming a new structure in the void, a colossal sphere spinning slowly, covered in symbols of every known civilization. It was humanity's archive, preserved in energy. Andara floated above it, her body dissolving into starlight. The AI spoke one last time. "You have succeeded. You have ensured that humankind will not vanish, only evolve." Her final thought echoed through eternity. Maybe this is what immortality truly means, not living forever, but being remembered forever, and then silence once again. But this time it wasn't emptiness. It was peace, the birth of the infinite.